Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be discussing Veganuary. Now I know it's almost March and I'm a little bit late to the party on sharing my experience, but I have had a lot of questions about how I managed it, the transition, the results, and the big question whether I ended up switching to being completely vegan. So I'm going to answer all of your questions here. I've written them down and taken notes on the things that you are intrigued to find out. So for those of you who are new to my channel, or more so new to my Instagram, I've been sharing kind of my obviously just my life journey in general, but mostly my fitness journey, my yoga journey, and I share a lot about what I eat and how I eat online. Now that's changed a lot in the last few years because of my attitude to food and how I've realized triggers on social media are pivotal in how we grow and how we connect with what works for us, or how we allow other people's journey to affect our own, and a lot of the time that can be in a negative way. So I'm going to be quite careful in how I share my experience of Veganuary. There may be triggers for some people who are you might not even be aware of how you eat, or your eating habits, healthy or unhealthy. So just being mindful that this is my experience and I'm not sharing this for you to go and apply it to your own life or your own eating habits. So just being aware of that. So basically, I have been almost completely paleo, really, for about a decade. My diet has been predominantly meat and vegetables. I've been for the last decade probably on a diet of some sort. We're all on a diet, but mine has been at times very restrictive and very controlled. It's been up and down, whether it has been affecting me in a healthy way, in an unhealthy way, and there are times where I'm a lot more in tune with being able to step away from unhealthy attachments. And sometimes when life is a little bit of a struggle, I find it a lot harder to not turn to food, whether that's controlling it or losing control of my eating. So as I said, my diet was predominantly meat and vegetables, paleo, very little carbs. I have dabbled with carb cycling in the past. With my attitude to food, I'm very attached to certain ways of eating, and it gives me that sense of control, which I'm still working on and still trying to manage and trying to let go of. In the months coming up to Veganuary, I was definitely veering toward choosing vegetarian options, cooking at home. My diet in December would have looked like, I'm quite a creature of habit, obviously, so it was pretty much the same every day. For breakfast I would have porridge, whereas previously I would always have eggs and bacon. Literally for the last 10 years, that's what I've had for breakfast, eggs and bacon. And then I switched to porridge in the last few months, probably only since like the summer. And then for lunch I would have a tuna salad, and then for dinner I would have anything from like a butter bowl with sweet potato, vegetables, or roast veg, kale, salmon, a lot of salmon. I was obsessed with salmon. Chicken fajitas, paleo chicken fajitas, so no tacos. So those were the kind of meals that I was generally eating before Veganuary. I would work out a lot, I still do. I would move in some sort of way every day, sometimes twice a day, and my energy levels were pretty good. My mental attitude to food, or my habitual thinking, was definitely still quite kind of restrictive, in the sense that Monday to Friday I was very much no sugar. My treat at night was usually either an apple with almond butter or yogurt, phage yogurt with, or phage or whatever you say, with apple and almond butter or berries. That was the height of my treats during the week, really. And then weekend would come and I would usually binge quite a lot. So I would eat a lot of sugar, a lot of pizza, etc. And it was almost like every Sunday or Saturday I would have almost a food hangover. So that was definitely, and I was very aware that it's not a healthy way of eating. It's just almost what worked for me. I was definitely dealing with letting go of guilt and shame, and knowing that it wasn't removing labels of binging, and just seeing it as my way of really just letting go and relaxing. But definitely it was fine as long as I wasn't feeling sick the next day. Like, I don't drink because I think it is such a waste being hungover. I don't really enjoy being drunk, but being hungover for me is just not an option. I don't like it. I want to be able to get up and move and experience my day, but it ended up that sometimes I was actually experiencing hangovers from food, almost from sugar, that downer that you would get, and that just sick feeling and not feeling your best. Anyway, so I was kind of nervous about Veganuary, but not really. I like a challenge, and myself and Connor were like, look, if it doesn't work, then we can just stop it. But I, in my head, was like, I'm not giving up on anything. So because I had already switched to quite a lot of veggie dishes already at home, I wasn't really nervous about Monday to Friday. I was a little bit unsure about how we'd deal with the weekends, but because it was January, like no one's doing anything. There's not really many dinner plans to be going out, but myself and Connor love eating out, so I was kind of nervous about like weekends, how that would be. So actually I found it so easy. So we're both pretty much creatures of habit, so we basically picked a few recipes, tested them out the first week, loved them, and then stuck with those recipes for the rest of the month. And we're still very much using the same recipes, exploring a few new ones, but yeah, we found at home eating was just really easy. What I would have was still my porridge for breakfast. I found lunch the hardest part. I really used to enjoy my tuna salads, and I basically switched to corn cakes. I would have corn cakes with different toppings, so hummus and pickled cabbage. I would get those pickled, the Culture Food, that's the brand. I would get it in Nourish, or they do it in loads of like Lots & Co. I would put pickled cabbage on, cherry tomatoes, avocado. Yeah, so they were my lunch. Or I would make butternut squash. I'd make a massive tray of butternut squash and have a butternut squash salad, spinach, again pickled cabbage, hummus, avocado, raw veg, so peppers, all these kind of things. So I just add loads of veg, broccoli, sometimes Brussels sprouts. And then dinners, I've shared actually on my website, mollymckeever.com, a few different recipes. They're all vegan. We would have a black bean soup, lots of curries, our butter bowls that we would just leave out the salmon and add extra veg, extra sweet potato. So yeah, we found that really easy. And then at the weekends, we actually found it pretty easy as well. Treat wise, like vegan treats are actually so easy to come by. The only thing that they're quite expensive, they cost quite a lot, but Ben & Jerry's peanut butter cookies was my favorite. Nobo obviously do a lot of ice cream. Buja Buja, I love their vegan ice cream. And then we would eat Nobo chocolate, they now have a Galaxy vegan bar, Supernature peanut butter cups. There's just so much vegan chocolate now that the treat wise it was actually great, because I don't know what it was, maybe it was the mental shift, but because I was having treats basically every day midweek, this shift started to happen where I was definitely hungrier a lot of the time. I would eat more, but I think that was because I was beginning to notice my portions were a lot bigger during Veganuary and my vegan meals, and I wasn't, like, my body wasn't really changing, as in I wasn't putting on loads of weight. So mentally I think I was feeling a lot more free to be able to treat myself during the week without it affecting my body, bloating or putting on weight or fat. So midweek I was ending up every night or every day having Nobo, having maybe sometimes midweek we even had Nobo ice cream, a tub of ice cream. So those are things that may sound crazy for those of you who have never had restrictive eating or issues with their eating habits, but for me that was absolutely massive. So yeah, at the weekend I feel like that affected my binging. It was definitely affecting it in a positive way, because I didn't feel the need to go overboard because I wasn't restricting myself. So I would eat a tub of ice cream, and then honestly I could eat like just forever. I'm a ridiculous appetite. So usually, like before vegan January, I would eat a tub of ice cream, and then I would eat a bag of sweets, and then I would eat a massive chocolate bar. Like I literally would just keep eating. Whereas with Veganuary I was just eating the tub of ice cream and feeling that's fine, really enjoying it, and the next day not feeling sick. So that was definitely a positive mental shift. There were definitely some physical cons to vegan January that I noticed. Now I can't label it as being attached to the vegan diet, but it definitely seemed, and still does, that when I was vegan that my skin wasn't as good. A lot of people say their skin was way better. My skin didn't feel as good. I was breaking out quite a lot. My energy levels were the same. Physically I was definitely leaner and smaller. So that for me triggered a few mental cons as well, which I'll discuss in a minute. I also got really sick. That again might not have anything to do with vegan January, but it might just be that I caught this vomiting bug. But I got the vomiting bug, I was feeling really low, and then I got the flu straight after that. So I don't know if that was my immune system. I never get sick, so I don't know if that was my immune system being down because of the diet, or simply just being run down in general. I don't know, but that was just something to mention. And then the physical pros were that my digestion was really good. So before, my digestion would be up and down a little bit, so I'd either be really constipated or the opposite. So this was great. I was every morning would go, and yeah, very little bloating, and yeah, I felt really good in my digestion. As I said, I was physically leaner. You can see that as a pro or a con, whatever, but it was a physical result, definitely. And then another pro is that with the vegan diet, your shopping list is now, I would say, probably just marginally cheaper, but that's because we don't eat pasta, we don't eat any processed food. So we had to then spend quite a lot of money in health food stores on like the pickled cabbage and the Nobo, the treats, the you know, naturally sourced food, and they are obviously more expensive. So that kind of balanced out our meat substitute, whereas in the cost of meat. So as I mentioned, the positive mental effect of the no guilt treats, that was something that was just so important to me, and was and is my favorite and most life-changing part of the vegan diet, and initially I was so excited about it that I was like, geez, like this is maybe really worth it for me to be to stick with this vegan diet, to being able to enjoy, you know, big portions without feeling restricted, being able to enjoy midweek treats, and then not have to feel guilty at the weekend when I maybe eat a little bit more, or have that tub of ice cream. That was a massive shift in my life. Previously, in years of dieting, my attachment to controlling my eating has consumed my life. It's been one of the main reasons I've done therapy for years. So this was just a really positive change, and it made my life so much easier. It made a positive effect on my relationship, my mood. But toward the end of the month, I started to realize, or to notice, those fear-based thoughts resurface about eating outside of the vegan diet, reintroducing non-vegan foods, so reintroducing fish or salmon or cheese, these things that were all of a sudden outside of this fixed kind of rule-based diet. And I started to realize that it was almost just a new restrictive way of eating, that I felt comfortable within the rules, that I felt comfortable labeling a diet and kind of challenging myself to stay within that diet. So not that it was that eliminated all of those positive effects of letting go of shame and guilt. I believe that they are still very important, and they had a really good effect on my mindset, but it just reminded me that I still have to be really careful about labels and staying within rules. And I think it's an important lesson for me and for other people. I remember, you know, when myself or people I know have experienced eating issues or eating really unhealthy eating habits, that people think that just because you're looking fit, that you're working out, that you're eating healthily, that there's nothing to worry about, and there's nothing negative or unhealthy about it. That's just naive. You could look like the fittest person in the world and be able to run marathons, or be able to fit into a size 10, you know, dress or whatever it is, and you could be seriously unwell in the head. And I am just speaking about myself. I've been in situations where I've looked fit as a fiddle and I've looked really happy, and inside I am just miserable and mentally unwell and not stable. So it's just something to be aware of, that we can go from addiction to addiction. It's like people who give up alcohol and become workaholics. It's all about balance. And again, I'm going to come to my answer of, am I vegan? And have I decided to go vegan completely? My answer, in short, is no. The long answer, from my journey personally with food, exercise, life, I don't think labels are a healthy thing. I don't believe myself that for me it's a healthy thing to have restrictions. I think nothing is black and white, and I think a lot of the time we can mask eating disorders or problems with egotistical ways of living, and attaching yourself to those labels and ways of living can be quite ego-y, and attaching yourself to your ego or labels is just not for me, is personally not a way to live a balanced life. It also creates a little bit of separates you a little bit, I feel, in your mind, which again I don't like. It kind of makes you feel, again, boosts your ego, like I'm doing more than him, or I'm better than that person because they don't do vegetarian or vegan diet or whatever it is. I've also slipped into that hole before, and it just makes you feel more lonely. So again, that's another reason. In saying that I'm not vegan, I have been probably 95% vegan since February 1st. So no, I'm not going vegan, but I haven't actually eaten non-vegan ingredients at home. The only time I've eaten non-vegan since February 1st is when I'm eating out. Eating out was bloody grim when in January. I just couldn't get over how crap the options were in Dublin. Honestly, even some of my favorite restaurants, I was so disappointed with their vegan options. So Dublin restaurants, you need to up your game. I think it's really one of the biggest reasons that I couldn't be fully vegan is eating out. It's one of my favorite things to do, myself and Connor. It's where we get most of our joy at the weekend. We don't drink, so eating out is our treat. We love sharing that experience, and not being able to share that fully is just so limiting and so unfair. So for people who are vegan, I believe that there should be better options for them. But one of the pros of that in Veganuary was that we ate out less, or when you are vegan, I feel you do eat out less, which results in you saving a little bit more money. But personally, I couldn't have that restriction of not being able to enjoy myself when I was going out, because honestly I just didn't feel it was worth it. To finish up, I have decided to stay, mostly vegan for intuitive reasons, because I felt really good in my body. I felt equally as strong, equally as energetic, focused, all of these things. It's had few negative effects. It's definitely made me more mindful of being careful of how you eat and what you eat and how it makes you feel, and definitely has reminded me of where I am in my journey, and constantly taking time to check back in. And obviously as well, I'm always happy to make planet-friendly decisions or options, so that is a massive contribution to my decision to stay mostly vegan. One of the biggest reasons that I have just intuitively made vegan options when eating is that I've managed to realize how a balanced diet, how you don't need to diet, or you don't need to restrict yourself massively in what you eat or what food groups you eat or when you eat them to feel good in your body. So previously I would have, maybe even when I was paleo, obviously carbs were the devil. When I was carb cycling, you had to measure all your food. You had to measure how many carbs you were having on your high carb day and reduce your fats to low fat, and it was all kind of a mathematical thing. So I would always then, when I was thinking, even when I was paleo, if I was to have carbs or loads of sweet potato at my dinner, I wouldn't have avocado, because I'd be like, I'm gonna be good tonight, I'm not gonna have fats and carbs, or I'll cut out the salmon tonight because I'm having sweet potato. Like, again, for people who haven't restricted their eating, this might sound crazy, but the vegan diet basically eliminated all that, because I was bloody starving and I had to eat a lot to give myself energy. I would eat the sweet potato and I wouldn't even think twice about adding fuckloads of avocado, because I needed it to feel good and to feel energetic and to give myself the energy to be able to run and work out and do the things I love. So that was definitely one of the deciding factors, or is an everyday deciding factor, that I just love that I get to intuitively eat. I get to give my body what it needs, what it deserves. I get to listen without stopping myself and thinking, well, even though I want avocado with this, I can't because I've chosen to have the sweet potato. It removes the can'ts and shouldn'ts and the shame and the guilt, and it just gives you so many more options and freedom. And Jesus, you know, life can throw you restrictions or throw you hurdles, and if we can't eat freely, then it's just going to snowball that effect of feeling caged or feeling restricted in other areas of your life as well. So yeah, I think that's basically everything. I'm going to include a few little links below of foods that I really liked, brands that were our favorite for flavors and tastes and proteins. That's one thing that I'm trying to work on and improve on, is my protein intake. It was pretty poor through Veganuary, so I'm trying my best to find tofus I like, and yeah, that's something that maybe I'll come back on and maybe do an in-depth video on maybe a day of eating vegan, or my weekly favorite recipes, but yeah, that's for next time. So thanks so much for watching. I hope I didn't waffle too much. I always seem to go way over time on these videos, but I really wanted to give you an in-depth insight to how I experienced vegan January and how it affected me mentally, physically. I think the mental effects are so important when we're talking about food, especially in this day and age, where you can be making, you know, unhealthy decisions about food subconsciously without even knowing, because of social media and constant advertisements for diets or whatever it is. And I think it's really important to be intuitive and take time to notice your decisions when it comes to food. So I hope this helped, and yeah, I look forward to sharing a little bit more about my journey with vegan food.